Hey, I've made a few of these fighting game tutorials now, but I haven't really talked much about, the actual gameplay. I know I promised you I talk about combos and stuff, but we gotta get our feet wet before taking a dive. Alright, with that out of the way, let's start with round start. Fucking A. So I'm playing the game, I got my character, I think they're really cool.
Okay, so now what?
Well, I hope you hopped into training mode at some point because you'll need to use your key buttons and figure out some kind of game plan from there. We talked about these key buttons in the first episode of the series, so go check that out if you're not sure what I'm talking about. You'll also use what you learned in episode 2 to form this game plan of yours. Your character's archetype should point you in the right direction. Once you've got that figured out, you're good to go. Alright, enough self-promotion. Let's get back to round start. Alright, so right away, you should know that this is called the neutral. Don't get it confused with the neutral position on your stick. It's weird, yeah, I know. This neutral is when neither player is getting beat up. Also, you can win and lose the neutral. For example, if you get knocked down, you're losing. If you get close and push buttons and your opponent blocks them, you're winning the neutral. The main thing that wins you the neutral is your ability to do more than the other guy. Like when you're in the middle of the screen, you can jump up, jump back, jump forward, just do whatever you want. But if you were in the corner of the stage, you ain't backing up. You're as backed up as you can be. Your opponent though, now they got some options. That's the gist of the neutral. But the game plans that people make to win the neutral can get pretty complex and flexible.
Oh, I got footsies.
Oh, I was footsies.
Of course, that doesn't mean that they can't be simple too. Through practice and planning, you can more consistently win the neutral, which just puts you in a good spot during a match. This is how you'll get your combos to land more consistently and why we need to talk about it first. Alright, cool. So, how do I make a game plan? Like I said, what character you pick should help you determine your game plan. A good way to find a game plan is to look at how fast your character is and how far they can attack. Short range characters are going to want to get close. Far range characters will obviously prefer to have some distance. And if you have average distance like Ryu, you can use your poke button as a good gauge as to how far you'd want to stand from your opponent. Each character has their reasons for keeping a certain distance from the enemy, which is what will inform your game plan. Grapplers, for example, have a big, damaging grapple move. So yeah, I'm going to hit them with that. The problem, however, is that grapplers are usually big and slow. So you'll have to think of some way to getting close. The goal is simple, just hit them with your grab. But the steps needed to get there are where your game plan will kick in. You can look up a guide, there's no shame in that. But it's better to teach a man a fish, so we're gonna try and figure it out on our own, alright? Following the grappler example, let's take a look at Potemkin from Guilty Gear. He's about as slow as Zangief from Street Fighter, but Guilty Gear is otherwise a much faster game than Street Fighter. So what the fuck? How am I supposed to catch these little bastards? Well, let's look at what you got, alright? First off, Potemkin has an easier time dealing with fireballs compared to someone like Zangief, as he has this flick move that can negate an incoming fireball. Flicking the fireball shoots it back at your opponent and will make them deal with it instead. While they're dealing with that, you can walk up a bit, that's cool, but what if they just don't shoot at you? Well, you can still hammerfall. That thing has armor, which means you could take a hit like a man. Now, he does have some other attacks that move him forward, so let's take a look. One is Mega Fist. It's not great, and it doesn't take you far, but it's not as committal as Hammerfall, but it is good for a mid-range gap closer. I noticed that my 5S goes a pretty good distance, so I tested doing Mega Fist afterwards, and yeah, it kind of works. Now, another thing I tested out was my 5P. I noticed that my 5P was actually pretty short range, so I tried out my 2P instead. 2P ended up having a lot more range, and of course it also cancels into Mega Fist. 2P doesn't have as much range as 5S, but 2P is faster. Unfortunately, 2P is not a low attack. Your opponent can block it standing. There is 2K, which is a low attack, but it has significantly less range than your 2P. Although this 2K does feel like a worse 2P, it is still an important tool to have since it is a low, and because it also cancels into 2D. That's pretty good because Mega Fist is a high attack, So the poke from 5S and 2P, the low from 2K, and the Mega Fist all work together to form a pretty competent offense, and it also leads me into my greater goal of closing distance and getting a grab. I am not a Potemkin player, but this seems like at least a decent way to get close, at least for now while I learn the character. And so there we go. I now have a few ways of getting in close just from hitting some buttons in training mode. Alright, let's look at another example. Let's spin the wheel. That way you know that this works for basically whoever and that I'm not just cherry picking my picks here. Alright, first we'll spin the wheel for a game. Alright, BBCF. Now let's spin the wheel for a character. Now of course, I erased Lychee as I actually play that character. Okay, I know people like this character. I know she has traps or something. Oh yeah, she's got magnets. So she seems like she wants to zone. But she also has this rocket punch and can teleport to her magnets. Like, what? Am I supposed to use fireball, trap, and magnets? Or is she more about the rocket punch and this grappling hook I found? I don't understand this character. I see my zoning tools, and I see my rushdown tools. So I guess I'll just make 2 game plans. Okay, well I noticed that people can just run out of the magnet. So I guess I'll need to use my trap before I try setting up anything else. The magnets pull not only opponents, but also my fireballs, so I guess that's the plan. But that seems to be all I can really do. It's awkward to combo them afterwards. Like, the best I can do is this little number, which pushes them far away again, that's good, but it doesn't really do damage. This stuff also takes a long time to set up, and it could just straight up be avoided. All these reasons is what makes me believe that going aggressive is what this character prefers to do. She moves pretty fast after all. Alright, game plan for offense.
Step 1. Step 2.
Yeah, something like that seems fun. This is how I go about building a basic game plan when learning a new character. You'll likely not find the optimal stuff, but it's something you built, and it's more than enough to let you kick some ass. Again, no shame in looking stuff up. In fact, I recommend it. Learning more is how you improve, so don't be afraid to look things up at any point of your fighting game journey. Speaking of looking things up, fighting games have some weird terminology. Honestly, it gets kind of intimidating. Luckily for me, and you I guess, there's this super awesome dude named Infil who finished up a giant, all-encompassing fighting game glossary, and it's free for everyone. I've checked it out. It's really good, dude. I'm just gonna go ahead and link it in every Enter the Ring so people have it at the ready. Okay, yeah, that's all I got. That's all I gotta say. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.